Hi, I'm Juliette Ferguson. People call me Jette with Sotheby's International Realty here in Carmel, California. And today I have a wonderful guest, Robert Waligore, family attorney, to talk about things that happen related to real estate, purchases and sales, if families' situations change.
Correct.
So, yes, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. So, just by way of background, I've been practicing law for about 37 years, and the last 25 years have emphasized the practice of family law.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been
And
involved in
Silicon Valley.
Yes.
Okay.
And so a lot of times it comes up with, within the context of marriages, people own real estate, and primarily they have a family residence, and then a lot of the issues revolve around what do you do with the family residence between the two parties?
Mm-hmm. And so, and who's on title, and who gets this piece of this asset versus this house, and
Yes.
what's a common example that you could give us?
Well, usually both parties are entitled to the house. There can be lots of complications about when the house was purchased, whether someone had bought it and then later they refinance it and they put the other party on title, and then that all sort of factors into what the community interest is in the property. Another thing is if the parties bought the property and someone used, say, sold another property and then had a separate, basically separate property funds that they used as part of the down payment. So all of those things factor into looking at what is the community interest in the property. So that can get fairly complex, and it is very much on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
So, but generally, the two ways that the properties are usually taken care of in terms of family residence is either one party buys the other one out, or there's a sale, and
then split the proceeds.
yes. And again, once you figure out what the community interest is,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at sort of what is the net, and then that's divided up between the parties,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of the cleanest way to go. And the disputes come in terms of how much should the property be listed for, if the property's not selling, if you're going to drop the price. So those things come up, and sometimes people end up in court in front of a judge, and then the judge is going to usually say, okay, do you have an appraisal? I can't make a determination as to what the value of your house is. You say it's worth one thing, the other person says it's worth something else. I don't know. You
get that with happily married couples
right,
too.
right. So, but in terms of that, so the appraisal also, if one party is going to buy the other party out, usually there's an appraisal. There are appraisers who specifically do this sort of thing for family law cases, because they understand what the rules are, and also if they have to come and testify at court. A lot of them have testified before, so they can appear as an expert witness. So. And also, I guess while we're talking about experts, sometimes each party gets their own appraiser. Sometimes they get one appraiser. They agree to one appraiser, and if somebody doesn't like that number, they can go out and get their own. So,
okay.
and then both of those people can appear in court.
So they could agree upon one appraiser, or
Yes.
they can get their own appraiser.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So, and then the real issue then becomes is, can the party who wants to keep the house actually refinance it? And then that's usually becomes a big problem.
That I've seen a big problem.
Right.
So one buys the other out, then the other doesn't have the income level to pay the mortgage comfortably enough, or at least even if they do have the income level, they also want some money for food and other things besides the mortgage.
Well, but it's also finding a lender who's willing to, to make the loan on the house.
Sure.
Because they want to get paid back. So,
Sure.
So the credit worthiness of the party is, that can be a problem. They handled the case recently where both parties they have rental units, and then it was like, oh, we'll sell the rental units, and then wife wanted to buy husband out of the house, and it's like, well, I have all this cash, and then so when I go to refinance, I'll have to come up with a much lower number, and that was something that became a problem because the rental unit that she had was in a condo complex, and they were having all this litigation regarding it, and so they tried to sell it, and it was like nobody wanted to buy it because it was just buying into this set of problems.
Right, right. So about are there lenders that can help in varying situations? I have a situation where I have a friend who has not a large income, and they are divorced, and she is trying to buy out the house. And are there special scenarios, or is it just you qualify or you don't? Now you have to sell the house if you can't qualify.
That's pretty much it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, just there are lenders out there. Some people are willing to take more risk, but then usually that's at a higher interest rate.
Right.
So,
right.
And then then it's a real question of whether it's going to be able to pay the mortgage. One of the things that factors in is also whether the party who's trying to keep the house is getting spousal support from the other party, and factoring that in, and then looking at it in terms of saying there are a lot of issues regarding spousal support and how long it's going to go on and that sort of thing,
right.
whether one party's even entitled to it or not. So
right.
So there are a number of different issues. The other is there's child support. So if the spouse that's in the house wants to buy the house is saying, well, I'm getting spousal support, I'm getting child support, and then all of a sudden, but the children are, say, in their later teens, and then all of a sudden it's like at 18 all of that stops, generally speaking. So
they can afford the payments for 8
8
years, and then like
that.
a balloon payment, they need to move on.
Right. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it looks like we're out of time already, but I appreciate your coming. This is Robert Waligore, Silicon Valley family attorney. Would you like to give a phone number?
No.
We'll give it on our
sure.
website.
Yeah. That would
Okay.
be fine.
Thank you so much for coming.
Okay. You're welcome.